going to hear from an extraordinary individual who has journeyed the 9 belts herself over the course of the 15 years that she's been around Bridge Builders, and every time she speaks it is, I watch her preparation and I see the fact that when she tries to come and present something to you, that she really wants to add value to more of you than less. And so this is a moment where you lean in. It's not a moment where you're touching the person next to you going, "Oh, do you love me?" You know, this is a moment.
That's such a love.
It is!
I saw that.
Kelvin's in the way, Phil.
So, he'll be right, he'll move. Otherwise, boom! No. So, kick him in the nuts. Anyway, so what we're going to do tonight, if you have not been practicing the last 2 weeks of what it means to move from your orange belt to yellow belt, from your white belt to your yellow belt, orange belt is tonight. Again, nothing changes in your life unless you begin to change something. Right? If you just keep wishing it, it just doesn't change. You need to make an effort and practice new things. So tonight, the lady in orange is Rebecca Leanne Mitchell.
Everybody was coming for the
Everybody come to the party! I got nothing.
I was holding this side. Thank you, Phil, for giving away all my secrets. Oh, yeah. Yes, my middle name is Stan. How good is the new office, right? Who loves the new office? Hands up who loves the air conditioning. Hands up who loves the Can I put my hand up? I can put my hand up. Thank you so much for being here tonight, guys. I really wanted to welcome you on what is a really important night for us, our first night in the new space. But I also wanted to say congratulations for being here, because there's a lot going on in life at times, and there are probably a lot of other places that you could be, that you could choose to be on a Monday night. Yet you choose to come to Bridge Builders in our beautiful new air conditioning, and you choose to be here for the whole night and hang out at Bridge Builders. So I just wanted to say congratulations and thank you for making the choice to be here tonight. As Phil mentioned, we are in the middle of our self-defense series. So the first night we had was the white belt, the second night was the yellow belt, which we did last week. And tonight we are doing the orange belt, which is really exciting. Wearing an orange shirt. That's why I'm wearing an orange shirt. Just thought I'd match with the belt. And basically tonight is actually all about self-esteem. Now, hands up in the room who's heard someone talk about self-esteem before. Right, so it's not uncommon for people to talk about self-esteem. And that's actually probably a really, really good thing. Now, when we talk about self-esteem, one of the main things that we talk about is the value, the way that we see ourselves. And basically self-esteem is summed up in that way. Self-esteem is literally how you value you, or how you see you. So if you think about that for a second, and you think about you, don't worry about everyone else in the room. Think about how you value you as a person. Do you think highly of yourself, or do you think not so highly of yourself? Really, at the end of the day, self-esteem is the value that you place on you. It's individual, right? Now, I have in front of me a $100 note. Yes? Hands up in this room who wants $100. Excellent. I thought I would get a high response. When you look at a $100 note, do you know how much it's worth? When you look at you, do you know how much you're worth? No. 2 cents. Interesting question, hey? I'm just going to leave this $100 note sitting over here. It's just sitting here. Did you know that 7 out of 10 teenage girls feel like they don't measure up? 7 out of 10 teenage girls feel like they don't measure up. Now, whether that's not feeling good enough, not feeling like other people value them, not feeling like they're any good and compared to somebody else. Ultimately, nearly 3/4 of young girls feel like they don't measure up, whether that's to other people or to life in general. Now, looking around the room tonight, and out of all of the girls in the space, if 7 out of 10 of us don't feel like we're measuring up to the other people in the room or to life, that's not the greatest, is it? Do you think we might have a problem with the way that we see ourselves? I read a statistic this week that talked about 2% of women feel beautiful. And I wondered, my first question was, what about the other 98%? What do they think? One of the things that we tend to forget is that self-esteem and body image to a degree also affects men. And there was lots and lots of statistics about women, but I couldn't find a lot about men. But there was one thing that I did find that shocked me. And young men in a survey referred to 2 statements that they felt like they were sick and tired of hearing about their self-esteem. So if you're a young man in the room tonight, you might relate to this. The first statement was that I feel like I have to have facial hair to be a man. I thought that was really interesting. Out of all of the things that men really struggled with, it was that the perceived value of their manhood based on whether or not they have facial hair. I actually hear young men talk about that all the time. That they don't feel manly enough because they don't have a bit of stubble. Right? You might relate to that as a young man. The second statement was that you're too skinny to be a man. There's this impression that as a young man I have to be buff and tough and strong and built. And if I'm not, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, then I can't be a man. Do you think that maybe some of us, or community in general, might have a bit of a problem when it comes to the way that we see ourselves? Yeah. I know that for me that was definitely the case a few years ago. Self-esteem is literally how we think and how we feel about us. And so if I went back a few years, there were definitely times where I didn't think or feel the greatest about me. And even though I'm a fairly confident person today, I can look back and I can see moments in my life where I didn't feel that great about me. Those moments when we roll out of bed or we go to get out of bed in the morning and all we want to do is just pull the covers up over our head and wish the day away. Because that's easier than getting up and facing the challenges that you face. Some of those can be external, some of them can be internal. What I would love to invite you all to do tonight, right now in this moment, is I want you to fire me as your friend. Okay? Fire me as your friend. Pretend that we're not friends right now, okay?
You're fired!
But, thank you. But what I want you to do is I want you to hire me as your mentor. Just imagine for a second that you and I were alone and I'm mentoring you and I'm teaching you something about self-esteem, okay? Hire me as your friend. I'm not your friend right now, although I love you. Hire me as your mentor, okay? Imagine if I was mentoring you individually, not the whole room. And I would love to actually share with you something that ultimately I feel like I never got taught, and something that I feel like might help you when it comes to your self-esteem. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm going to need a very courageous volunteer. Brandon.
Yay!
In my hands I have a thermometer. Now who's wishing they didn't volunteer? Turn around and in my hands I have a thermometer. What does a thermometer do?
Measure heat, temperature.
Measures temperature, aka hot and cold. It's just slightly, it's brand new, I promise. Pop that in your mouth under your tongue, and we're going to measure Brandon's temperature. Okay?
What does that mean?
That was right. Press the on button, slide it under your tongue, and while Brandon's measuring his temperature, he's just preparing himself.
Tested on Calvin's butt first.
Yay!
Gotta keep it under there. Hey, don't bend over. No, come here.
Stand up for a second.
Keep it under there. Keep it under.
You're not embarrassed at all, I don't know what you're talking about. So we're going to test temperature. Now, when people talk about self-esteem, you've probably heard the words high self-esteem and low self-esteem, right? Imagine that temperature represents that right now, okay? So you've got high and you've got low. We're going to test Brandon's and we're going to see whether or not his temperature, as his human body, is hot or cold, or hopefully it's not cold. That would be bad.
Hot
But have a think about your self-esteem. Remember, this is about you. It's not about the person next to you, it's about you. So if you imagine yourself somewhere on a scale, right? So at the top, that's okay. At the top is high, and at the bottom is low. Now, imagine yourself on that scale for me, okay? You don't have to share with anyone, but I just want you to pop a dot in your mind where you feel like you are on that scale of hot to cold. Hot to low, high to low. Let's see what you came up with. 36.7. Smack bang in where it's the middle of where it's supposed to be. Well done, you can go and take a seat. Everyone can breathe. So just for the purpose of tonight, let's imagine that we're not quite where we want to be, but we're on the way. Alright, so let's just put it there. Now, this next exercise, I'm going to need a couple of the leaders to give me a hand. I'm going to hand out some balloons for you all. Before I do that, I'm going to ask that you don't pop them. Remove it to pelvis. And that you don't be silly because otherwise the activity won't work. But you all get one orange balloon. And I just want you to hold it in your hand for a moment if you can. Everyone ready? Please don't blow them up. Here are your instructions, okay? What I want you to do is imagine that your self-esteem is the balloon, okay? We're about to blow the balloons up. You have the option, you can either blow the balloon up to the size of your fist, or you can blow the balloon up to the size of your face. Okay? Please don't blow it any bigger than your head, because if you do, it's probably gonna pop. And it's no good if your self-esteem is popped. And the scale of that is going to be overinflated and underinflated. Now here's the key, right? Temperature, aka whether you have high or low self-esteem, is all about how you see you. Okay, the value that you put on you. But inflation, the amount at which you blow up your balloon when it comes to your self-esteem, is more about your accomplishments and the things that you've achieved. So think for a moment about a handful of things that you've achieved. Thank you, Tyler. Sorry.
Okay, guys, come in.
In the last couple of months, think about a handful of things that you've achieved. Now, when you achieved that goal, when you got that score, whatever the activity was that you were doing, whether you achieved a goal, the thing that you did, think to yourself, was I really proud of that? Did I give myself the credit that I was due for that activity or that goal that I achieved? Or were you on the other end of the scale where you thought, I wasn't really worthy of that anyway? That was a fluke. Never really should have happened. I'm not that good. Think about the activities and the goals, the things that you've accomplished, and think to yourself whereabouts on the scale you are. Are you the kind of person that is underinflated when it comes to your goals and your achievements? Or are you the opposite? Some people can be completely overinflated. And someone might be talking themselves up so much that you think they really didn't do that great a job. I don't know why they're talking about themselves so much. We all know those people, right?
Yeah.
But think about you. Think about where you sit on that scale. Now, for the purpose of tonight, I'm just going to put, we're not where we want to be, but we're on the way. That might change in a moment. So take the time now to blow your balloon up to where you think you are on the scale. Your fist is underinflated and your face is overinflated. Please don't pop your balloon, feel free to tie it up. What if I And don't give it to Calvin because he will pop.
Oh, yeah.
And then they won't like that's my face.
No blue party.
Alright, thank you so much. I know that's going to take a little bit, but if you can all try your balloon up. That's okay. So let's assume for a second that all of you sitting in the room tonight are there in terms of self-esteem. Okay? Let's just assume that you've blown your balloon up and you've thought about your temperature that Brandon so helpfully for us all. But what we've decided is that maybe we're not in the greatest place, because really that's what the statistics tell us. The statistics tell us that young women and young men don't feel that great about them. And that was what we were sharing about earlier. And this is where it gets really, really important, because I want you to ask yourself for a moment, if this is you, if you're on that whiteboard and you're in that position where maybe you don't value you, or you don't value your goals or your accomplishments as much as you really, really, really wished you could, how do we change that? But more importantly, what about the opposite to that? What about, or what would happen to you if you lived the rest of your days in that spot? Because really, when we have a lower self-esteem, how do we feel about ourselves? We don't feel that great, we experience more anxiety, we aren't as motivated, we don't want to get out of bed, we don't want to go and achieve our goals. Really, at the end of the day, if we have low self-esteem, we kind of just meander through life. We don't go after things that we want because maybe we don't feel worthy of them. Maybe we don't feel like that we could ever get there. Maybe people have discouraged us. Maybe we've been through situations that just teach us that maybe we're not worth it. Imagine what it would be like. Imagine the pain that if you got to the end of your life and you saw yourself still in the exact same spot you were sitting in this room tonight. Big, 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 you are a cheeky monkey. Don't let Calvin have your balloon. But seriously, can you fast forward for a second and put yourself in the position that you don't change? Does that frighten you? Yes. Hands up if that frightens you. Imagine if you actually spent the rest of your life settling for less. I'm afraid of that. Honestly, truly, like when I think about that for me, if I was to think that right now how I feel about me, for the rest of my life I was going to remain the same, that scares the crap out of me that I don't change. That I don't reach my full potential, that I don't get to be who I truly wanted to be. And I really hope that that scares you, because it should. Who wants to live life like that? Nobody. Nope. That's terrifying. It is. It should be terrifying. It terrifies me. So when I look at this scale, I think to myself, okay, maybe I've recognised that I don't feel the greatest, but how do I get up here somewhere? How do I actually do that? And what would that look like? And I want you to imagine for a second what it would feel like. I'm curious. Imagine for a second what it would feel like if you actually had the confidence in yourself to be who you wanted to be. Hands up in the room who walk around on a daily basis with a mask other than yourself. Right? We walk around on a daily feeling like we have to be somebody else. Imagine if you actually had the confidence to just be you. Like, not the person sitting next to you, not the people that you see on a TV screen, not the people you see in a magazine or on a billboard or at the beach. Imagine if you actually had the confidence to just be you. Like, imagine what that would feel like. Does anyone not get excited about that? I get really excited about that because I think, oh my gosh, imagine if I had the confidence to just be Rebecca Leanne Mitchell. Thank you, Philip. Like, imagine that for yourself. Your name, your personality, your life. Imagine how cool that would be. Imagine how amazing it could be if when a new opportunity came up, you had the courage to take it. We're in a new office today. Is it a little bit scary?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it a little bit exciting? Yeah. But new opportunities can be really scary. But how many times in your life do you turn opportunity away because you don't feel like you're worth it?
No.
Imagine if you had the confidence to just say yes. Of course I want to do that. I'm going to have to go with that. I'm going to have the courage because I know who I am and I know where I'm going and I want that, so I'm going to go after it. Imagine what that would feel like. Imagine what that would feel like and get excited about that. Imagine if really terrible, bad things happened to you in your life and you actually had the power to overcome them. How many of us feel like we've been through situations that we've wanted to have more strength and resilience at the time? And we look back and we go, oh, I wish I had known that back then. We get that all the time. And you can grow to be more resilient about you. When people say maybe not the greatest things towards you, or maybe when you go through experiences in your life, imagine if you had like water off a duck's back. Imagine if you had the ability to almost have like a shield up in front of you. A healthy self-esteem is like a really good shield. And it doesn't matter what life throws at you, you will have the resilience to bounce back. How cool would that feel? So if we've recognised that we're a little bit down here and we want to be a little bit more up here, how do we get there? If we've recognised that we don't want to do life settling for less, if we've recognised that it's really important to us that we want to grow, how do we get there?
We have to change.
We have to change. And you know what? I asked a number of people this week when I was just in my daily, I was talking to a few people and I asked them, what compels you to change? Like when you go to change something about you, what compels you to actually change? And you know the number one thing that they said every single time, boys and girls, young and old alike, you know what they said?
Their looks.
No.
Really?
They wanted to be a better person. That compelled them to change. If they thought about who they could be, that actually drove them to want to change. So imagine for a second, what's your potential? What's your potential? What does that look like? It's a little bit overwhelming, isn't it? Whoa, could I really be that awesome? Yeah! I don't know if anyone's ever told you that, but you could really be that awesome! So let's all go on the journey there together. One of the really challenging things about self-esteem is that we all have a need for approval, yeah? We all want other people to like us. I want people to like me. I hope that you all like me. We want other people to like who we are. And sometimes maybe that's the fear that you have in letting down your guard and not necessarily being you all the time is because you think maybe people won't like you. So we have this need for approval, and it's a bit of a balancing act between how to have good, healthy self-esteem and not need other people's approval at the same time. And I just want to address that for 30 seconds. Hands up in the room who feels like they need the approval of others. Keep your hand up if you feel like you want to change that. Wow. That's really good. That's really, really good. So if we truly, all of us, want to be better, and we want to reach a different place, not only do we want to feel great about us, but we want to feel great about our accomplishments. How do we do it? How do we get there? I have 3 things that I would love for you to write down, whether it's on your forehead, or on your phone, or on your balloon. Please don't pop your balloon. I have 3 things that have helped me, 3 things that I think have helped other people around me, and 3 things that I think ultimately can help you improve your self-esteem so that you can grow closer to your potential and being a better version of yourself. The first one is I want you to celebrate the small stuff. And what I mean by that is that sometimes getting out of bed can be like the world's greatest achievement that day, right? Am I right? Yeah? Sometimes it's hard to get out of bed and face the day. So have a pen and paper next to your bedside table, and when you roll out of bed, write that down. Rolled out of bed. Tick! And then when you went and ate breakfast, because like, you know, half the planet doesn't eat breakfast for some reason, when you actually go and eat a healthy breakfast, write down, I had breakfast today. Tick! I was talking to someone at another workplace this week and I asked them what was their daily breakfast and they said coffee. Please don't do that. That's not great. Imagine if you actually wrote down, like, I had a good breakfast today, I never do that. Tick. I went to school or I went to work, because I really can't be bothered doing either of those, but I did that today. Tick. Seriously. Like, the small stuff that you actually have to try hard to do on a daily basis sometimes because maybe you're unmotivated or you don't want to go or you don't want to do it. But when you do, celebrate that. I took the dog for a walk today. I hate the dog. I mean, I love the dog. I don't hate the dog. You might not like your dog. But what I'm saying is there are so many things that we do every single day that we don't give ourselves credit for. You might have encouraged somebody. Told them how awesome they are. Tick. I encouraged someone today. Tick. I want you to try and celebrate the small wins because they'll help you to get to the big wins. Write a tick list. Tick, 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 and just tick it off. And then at the end of the week or the end of the day, look back and look at how awesome the things are that you've done. You actually did that. You didn't just pull the covers up over your head and go back to bed. Because sometimes that's what we want to do, let's be honest.
We do that in the winter.
It's a little bit easier to do in the winter, I will agree. The second thing, now this one's probably the most important one for me and the one that's helped me the most. You do you, boo. Trust me. You'll remember, you do you, boo. Comparison is an absolute killer. And if you keep comparing your life and the things that you do and the things that you feel and the way that you see life to everybody else around you, you won't go anywhere. If you keep comparing your self-esteem to the person next to you, it's not going to change. Comparison is an absolute killer. You do you, man. You do you. Think about the things that you want to do, not the things that everybody else is telling you to do. Think about the things that you love.
I love you.
Oh, well, thank you. I love you too.
I love you.
You do you, boo. You know, it's like, I relate it to an athletics track. Obviously, I'm very active and I love my athletics and my running. When I'm running, I have to run in my lane. And if I run outside of my lane, I get disqualified. Someone's stuck. Please help me. Imagine you running in your lane. Stop worrying about the 8 other people on the track with you and just worry about what's in your lane. The things that you're heading towards. You do you, boo. Trust me, that one changed my life. And it's changing the way I do my training today. Comparing myself, he's going to be somebody better than you at something. Josh is a much better Sparky than I am. And I'm glad he is. Because I can employ his services and I won't kill us all, or myself. And the third, electrocution, it's a challenge. Working with electricity is scary. It scares me. That's why it's Josh. The third thing is this. Let's get physical. Right? I liked that actually. Let's get physical. I know it's a funky song, but outside of it being a funky song, it's actually a really cool thing.
Oh yeah, here we go.
I don't know what that is. But my point is this. Getting out and about and actually doing something with your body is a really, really, really healthy thing. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a runner. That is proven scientific evidence to suggest that there are really good endorphins that float around in your body when you do exercise. So if you're having a super crap day or you don't feel good about you, doing exercise will actually change your frame of mind. Hands up whoever's just gone for a walk and all of a sudden they feel good. Right? Some gone for a run, played a basketball game. Honestly, how much does doing exercise help you feel better about you? So let's get physical. So what's number one? Celebrate the small stuff. Create a tick list. What's number two? You do you, babe. You can all start saying that to one another this week. You do you, boo. If someone is talking to you about self-esteem and not feeling the greatest about themselves, that's actually something that you can pass on. Imagine saying that to someone, like they're not feeling the greatest, and you say, you do you, man. Just do you. Don't worry about everyone else. Just do you. You can actually help someone this week with that information. You do you, Bill. What's the third one?
Let's get
Physical. One moment.
Get a car.
I got it.
Wash your eyes.
Now obviously, there's a bit of an orange theme with this evening. It is the orange belt, okay? It's about self-esteem. We've talked about the value of self-esteem. I'm really surprised no one came up the front and pitched $100 off the table. It's been sitting there for half an hour. We realised that self-esteem is how we see us, it's how you see you, and it's how you see your accomplishments. We recognise the value, and there is value in who we are. We looked at what would happen if maybe we didn't change. Maybe we stayed here for the rest of our life, and that's probably not a space that we ever want to stay. It's certainly not a space that I'm ever going to stay. And we looked at if we want to change or we want to grow our self-esteem, how can we possibly do that? To get to that place where we feel ultimately confident in who we are and what we achieve. And finally, I want to land on simple orange. Huh? It's not just the orange itself, but it's the colour, and it's what the colour orange represents. And when I did some research this week and learned all about the colour orange, I realised that there's so much more meaning to colour than just a coloured belt. And when it comes to the colour orange, it's associated with words like happiness and joy and success and warmth. It's a warm colour. It's part of all the warm colour range. And ultimately, this week for you could be about success and joy and happiness and the good things in life. If you're making a tick list and you're actually appreciating the small stuff, by the end of this week you're going to feel amazing about you. And my final thought is this. Everything that I've said tonight comes from a place of feeling the opposite to how I feel now. If you're asking yourself the question, maybe she never felt the way I do, you're wrong. Because there's been days and there's been experiences in life that have taught me exactly that I'm not worth anything. That I'm not of any value. And for the first 17 years of my life, that was the case. And since then, I've been on a mission to change that. And what I want you to do, or what I would love to invite you to do, is be on a mission to change that big. That over the next month, or the next 6 months, or the next year, that you would be in a different place in your self-esteem and in the way that you value you than you are tonight. I love you all. Have a fantastic evening, and thank you.